It's been a struggle for Arsenal this season. You wouldn't think that on the surface, seeing that the club is currently second in the table. But going into this season, there were a lot of expectations for this club, and then also Man City decided to fall off a cliff, so this was the opportunity for Arsenal to finally have their year. But currently, they're 12 points behind Liverpool with 8 games to go. There have been a lot of factors that have contributed to this season of struggles, but today I want to focus specifically on the injuries that the team has endured, and there's a lot. We start not even into the preseason with fullback Kieran Tierney, who had just come back from a loan with Real Sociedad, tearing his hamstring in a Euro 2024 match between Scotland and Switzerland. A month later, right before Arsenal's preseason tour in the US, Takehiro Tomogotsu went down with a knee injury during training, and he would not be back until the beginning of October. Into August, into the new season, and we're off to a fantastic start already. Because Gabriel Jesus, after the first game of the season, went down with a groin injury, and he would go on to miss 2 games as a result. A training session then takes its next victim in new signing Mikel Merino, who quite literally just signed a few days prior, and now his debut had to wait until late October.
Hey, what's up? It's Ice-T. I want to tell you about a new game called Slap Kings, okay? This is where you get to slap a fool.
The September international window then decided to act like a wood chipper for our players. Ricardo Calafiori, after a promising start with the club, went down with a calf injury versus France, and then Martin Odegaard was victim to a bad challenge in a game versus Austria. Calafiori would go on to miss 1 game, but Odegaard wouldn't return until the beginning of November. And without his creative presence, Arsenal returned from the break struggling significantly. One such example at the very beginning included an awful performance versus Atalanta that ended in a 0-0 draw. Odegaard also missed the game versus Man City that ended in a heartbreaking 2-2 draw. And to make things worse, that game practically took out 3 of our starters. David Raya had a bit of muscle pain and missed a game. Ben White missed 4 games because of a knee injury he got after being subbed on in that match, and Jurgen Timber went on to miss a game because of a knock. The Dutchman though returned 7 days later, but then at the beginning of October he was subbed off with a muscle injury at halftime versus PSG and missed 2 more games. Takehiro Tomiyasu had just finally come back from injury, but his knee just won't let him experience more than 4 seconds on the pitch, and now he's out until February. Kai Havertz a few days later experienced some knee issues after a game versus Southampton, but luckily for Arsenal, he only missed international games. Speaking of the international break, Arsenal was spared 0 mercy in any of them as Bukayo Saka went down in a game versus Greece. This turned out to be a thigh issue which forced him to miss 2 games, and immediately the club struggled without him and lost to Bournemouth. Not an ideal way to go into a crucial match versus Liverpool. But then to make things worse, William Saliba was suspended after picking up a red card, and Ricardo Calafiori suffered a knee injury that would have him miss that game and 5 others. So with no other right backs, Arteta had Mr. Let Your Apologies Be Louder Than Your Disrespect man playing out of position, and then selected a hobbling Ben White struggling with his own knee to play at center back. Somehow we got away with a 2-2 result in the end, but we were not so lucky against Newcastle. In that 1-0 loss, Declan Rice broke his toe, and he missed 2 games, including an extremely dry and abysmal 1-0 loss to Inter, where we could only attack via second balls because our flanks were shut down and we had no other answer. And then after a game versus Chelsea, Ben White, who had been playing through an injury, finally reached a breaking point and got surgery. He would end up being out until mid-February now. Well done, medical staff. In that match, however, we saw Martin Odegaard finally return, and with some sparks as he immediately made an impact and assisted Gabriel Martinelli. Arsenal would end up drawing with Chelsea, which ended a 4-game winless run. However, Martin Odegaard collected another assist the following week to help the Gunners end the streak with a win versus Forest. And with most of the team back to being healthy, Arsenal finally got a bit of a flow going and started looking as good as they could without a proper finisher under Netanyahu ball. The Gunners collected 3 straight wins to end November, including a 5-1 pummeling of Sporting. But just when life was on the up, the injury bug strikes again as Gabriel and Ricardo Calafiori both suffer knee injuries and would each be out for 3 games going into December. As a result, Jakub Kiwior and Alexander Zinchenko would be their replacements. What follows is Zinchenko being subbed off for an injury in a 2-0 win versus United, and then Jakub Kiwior having a disaster class in the first 15 minutes of a game versus Fulham, where Arsenal is forced to settle for a draw after chasing the majority of the game. Despite the hiccups though, Arsenal were still able to climb up to second in the table after destroying Crystal Palace 5-1. But then Mikel Arteta's reign of child labor finally backfires, explodes in his face. After years and years and years of putting his golden boy through the gauntlet and never letting him rest, not even in a fucking League Cup game game versus Bolton, the hamstring finally had enough just 20 minutes into that game versus Palace. Blood is on your hands now, buddy. Arrest this war criminal now. Alright. No need to panic, we still have the other forwards, even if they're not as good. And also, we had Ethan Nwaneri doing a great job at stepping up in Saka's absence. I mean, he even scored for us in January versus Brighton. And then he got injured. Well, at least we qualified for the Champions League last 16. Life without Saka got tough. Very quickly. In a single week at the beginning of January, Arsenal lost to Newcastle in the first leg of the EFL Cup semis, and then they were knocked out of the FA Cup versus United. And then just to add lemon juice on that gaping wound, we lost Calafiori to an injury, again, and versus United, Gabriel Jesus tore his ACL and would be out for the rest of the season. Lord above, please kill me now. And then William Saliba picked up a slight injury versus Spurs. So with him and Calafiori out, Arsenal would blow a 2-0 lead versus Aston Villa because of another scuffed backline. Then towards the end of this hellish January, Martin Odegaard had the flu, so he missed a game versus Wolves. And with neither Saka or Odegaard present for this one, we were absolutely awful. But thankfully, Calafiori was there to save us in his game back from injury. February gave us a little bit of hope. It started magically with a 5-1 humbling of Manchester City. And then it went completely downhill from there. Newcastle knocked us out in the EFL Cup 72 hours later, and then we lost Gabriel Martinelli to a month-long hamstring injury. So, there goes another forward. And then, our only remaining striker, Kai Havertz, blows his hamstring open after blocking a shot during a training session in fucking Dubai. So now, the only attackers we had left were Leandro Trossard and Ethan Nwaneri. I don't count Raheem Sterling. No worries though, Arteta experiments with midfielder Mikel Merino up top, and it pays off as the Spaniard scores a brace off the bench versus Leicester. That's too much hope I'm sensing here. Remember Takahiro Tomogotsu's knee injury from, like, October? Well, after getting it treated and missing 29 games total, it turns out that he needed some more correctional surgery, and now he's out for the rest of the season. The pain just never ends. Arsenal then go the next 3 games winless, with each performance being genuinely more hard to watch than a live leak video. And now any chance that the title was dead, with the club 14 points away from the league leaders in fucking March. Despite this feeling like endless suffering though, this club was cruel enough to still find a way to give us hope that was so obviously false, but they knew we'd still fall for it anyways. In the last 16 first leg versus PSV, we put 7 past the Dutch club, and then finished them off a couple weeks later to win 9-3 on aggregate. Arsenal then carried that momentum back into the league with a win versus Chelsea thanks to Mikel Merino on... Well. But then, after yet another international break, Ricardo Calafiori picks up his 5th fucking injury of the season. How wonderful! Man, we got Real Madrid in a couple weeks. Have we not suffered enough? However, just when all hope was lost for the 8th time this season, he returned. After 3 agonizingly long months that felt more like 3 grueling years, our golden boy, our savior, Bukayo Saka, was back. In our next game versus Fulham, he would be subbed on to a standing ovation, and just 7 minutes into his return, he scored. You just simply could not deny it anymore. This was God's child.
You've got mail.
Why? Amazing. Just amazing. If losing Ben White and Calafiori wasn't bad enough, now we've lost one of our best defenders. Before Real Madrid. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna fucking do it! To really emphasize how bad this is, Arsenal's win rate with Gabriel is 64%. Without him, 44%. And because Jurrien Timber will have to fill in for Calafiori, that means our only other center-back option is Jakub Kiwior. Leave me alone! Listen, Kiwior isn't bad, but he's on limited minutes and will be up against this. I won't be surprised one bit if this man gets folded into a pierogi within the first 5 minutes. Now, obviously, with the other videos that you've seen that I've done about Arsenal this season, injuries aren't the only reason why this season has turned to shit. But just like all the other things, it all comes back to the root cause. Mikel Arteta. This guy acts like this is all FIFA career mode because he never rotates the squad ever until he's forced to do so because of his own fucking doing. This isn't just something no one expected to happen either. Arteta's strict reliance on certain players over the years is the reason you're now seeing literally everyone go down. I can understand that not all of this is on Arteta. Some of this has been just pretty unlucky. The fact that we had one of the best squad depths just in terms of defense, and also there was the Mikel Merino incident. But I'm just curious, right? Did Mikel Arteta hire his medical staff off the fucking street? We had 2 instances of players obviously coming back way too early and then having to get correctional surgery afterwards. And by the way, Ricardo Calafiori, before he signed with Arsenal, only had like 1 injury incident and missed 4 games last season with Bologna. And now he's had 5 injuries with this club in his first season. I understand that 2 of those instances happened during the international break, but 5 times, like, it just feels like they haven't managed that injury well at all. Also, gotta go back to the fact that we never got a backup for Saka, a proper one. Instead, we just decided to cut corners and loan in Raheem Sterling. I mean, this is like the Denver Nuggets bringing in Russell Westbrook. Crunky masterclass all around the board, guys. Anyways, I don't know what to say. I mean, I hope Arsenal does well somehow, you know. I hope that Jakub Kiwior can turn into, you know, like prime Maldini. But, you know, we'll just reconvene after the quarters when we probably lose like 10-3 on aggregate. Before I get into this long list of members like I usually do, though, I just wanted to mention that next weekend I will be hosting a Zoom call. It'll only be for the members, though, so if you're interested, again, it's next weekend, become a member today. Of course, though, a massive shout out to all our members, including Janos Balas, Lai Dice, Lugar BB, Aresan, Brazilian Fury, Jeremiah Wusu Ajimong, Django, Anazir Makalankam, Alex Rod, Ulta, Miguel Munoz, Return Fire, Rory Burns, Sliderkit, Taco Fan, The Cypriot 35, Not Windows 95 Man, Benjo Agatra, Saint Terrence, Sylvia Citrus, Wise Orange, Rashford Enthusiast, Cocosaurus Rex, Samu, Cheesebait, Wonder Gel, M4 Does Stuff, Finn Likes Rugby More, Davox, The Portergeyser, TPSK25, Polo Protos, Von Fan, Lucian Von Croix, Gezeger Special Cubics, Mono Tango Fei, A Ghostly Owl, Coney Wolves, Lickstab, Matanai, Sketchy Card, KM89, Apollo, Congo Jazz 1, German Sayu 7, Thrilling ADT 13, Los Milos, The FedEx Dude, Freya, Vasinho, Jamie Vardy's 10th Red Bull, Mad for Amadiallo, Adiel, Fofinuki, Nightwalker, Napside, Money Cash Hose, Quantavious Pork, Kev C, Dominic Griffin, Kyler Krez, Mohammed Altanib, Nish, Patrick Barley, Rashford God 5, Raspberry Ale, and Unbroken Persona. If you'd like to become a member of the channel, there'll be a link down below and up in the annotations. You can follow my Twitter if you want, follow my Instagram if you like, follow my Twitch. We'll stream at some point. But until then, I'll see you guys.